Release the demons.
On that note, welcome to Galactic Explorers with myself, Dallas, and the lovely and wild, as always, Daniella. Welcome to the podcast where we take you on a joyride through earthly, spiritual, and everyday topics explored with a galactic perspective. I want to start this one out with a viewer question that I thought was very intriguing and I would love to learn more about. It is, how do you know if you're a starseed, indigo, light worker, etc.? And what are others, if there are?
Good one.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Good one. That was one I asked myself for a long time.
Yeah, I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Wouldn't you just?
Please.
All the fists, like get the collie arms out. Many times I wished I had more than 2 arms. You think I've been an insectoid in another life? I feel like I'm missing arms.
Sometimes, yes.
Right. Speaking of which, speaking of being star children, right? Okay. Well, that was something I asked myself. I'd always wondered if I was an indigo, because I'd heard bits and bobs about it. It had come in and out of my field, pretty much all my childhood, in and out, and adulthood. And by the time I kind of really started reading into it and my own sense of self and all of that, I had almost discounted myself because it's like, oh well, it's like they call it indigo children, and this is like a thing, and so it's like I almost discounted myself before I even did my own inward journey about it, which is funny. So watch out for that one, guys. Mm-hmm. But I ended up running across these 2 books, which, if I remember, I'll link down at the bottom. And if I don't, throw it in the comments. Oh, that's too bad. Take pictures. And it was interesting how that happened, because it was literally like I was doing something else and I was almost entered into a trance, went on Amazon, bought those 2 books, came back out of the trance, and it was like, what did I just do? They came, I absorbed them, and I was like, oh. Well, that's simple, which is good. So I was like, where do I start? Just about everybody at this point in time on the planet is a starseed. What a starseed means in the lingo generally is that your soul began its journey in the individuated sense of who your individuated piece of eternity is. You began your journey, well, not from here. That would be considered an ET soul. You have an ET soul. You're not Terra, Gaia, Pachamama based. There are some that are. Mm-hmm. There are some that are Pachamama, Terra, Gaia based, and then have gone off and done other things and are now back. But they're still Terra based. So they're not ET. A starseed just simply means that you are from elsewhere and you don't resonate with a lot of the collective agreement, mainstream ideas that everybody else has agreed to. And you're here to kind of bring your own perspective to the game and let other people see it. And then if they choose to play that way, then cool. Your job is just to play the game how you came to play the game with all of your levels of experience as much as you can remember. And that's part of the work too, is remembering so that you can then bring that experience forward into playing in the now. That's all part of being a starseed and a lightworker. A lightworker is a starseed who does the work.
Okay.
So a lightworker is actually anybody. It could be anybody, really. Terra based or non. ET based or non. It's the soul that's doing the work.
So how do you recognize which one you are, and like how do you recognize that? How do you know?
Well, the biggest one too is feeling like, especially when you're growing up, a big misalignment.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like you belong here. And I know that's like the big cliche one, but it's like, I mean, you really just do not feel like you are from
Right.
this planet.
Yeah.
You look at everybody else around you and you are like, what the good flaming God is going on here?
Right.
And for a lot of us, it's very painful.
Mm-hmm.
We recognize it and we go, oh my God, how am I going to help this? It's so painful to see what other people do to one another, to the
Mm-hmm.
point where we might even start hurting ourselves because we
Mm-hmm.
just don't know what to do with it. We're trying to release it somehow, right? There's, I mean, being psychic automatically,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, means you're a starseed, right? Quote unquote. Ultimately, all it really means, though, is that you're in a process of awakening to your own personal vibrational identity. Because the personality, the skin that you're wearing right now is not your full identity. It's a costume. You're in a
Yeah.
play, you're on a stage, you're having a good time. You're in a costume. The bigger part of you, the soul part of you, right? That ain't from here. You recognize that. That's being a starseed. That's being a light worker. If you're starting to recognize that, if you're starting to wake up to the bigger part of yourself, you're waking up to being the light worker, which is just doing it. It's become a really big title. It's like, oh, I'm a light worker. Like, yeah, cool. Technically, we all are.
Right. What
Whether or
about
not we're doing it or
indigo?
not,
What about the
right?
indigo kids, the
Right.
children?
Right. The difference between them two.
Yeah. Like, is there a difference between like the indigo, right? Is the indigo?
Right. So that's where I was getting to. So what that book was able to teach me, those books, is that it's simple in the sense of it's literally just a label
Mm-hmm.
that is representative of a base frequency range. Or shall I say, not base, automatic, not automatic, innate. Your innate personal frequency range.
Okay.
And that frequency range in this particular scale, talking about whether you're a crystal child, rainbow child, indigo, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Because starseed is its own like blanket term, and light worker is its own even bigger blanket term. The other little classifications underneath it, I say little, but the other classifications underneath it essentially are identifying or giving you a word to describe, to identify where you are on the scale of masculine to feminine.
Interesting.
So an indigo is somebody that is pretty darn tootin' in tune with their feminine divine, but not as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
They are way more in tune with their warrior, with their masculine divine. Male or female incarnate, if you have felt like that you are here to fucking right an injustice, there is injustice in the world and that is bullshit, and you were going to go in there and you were going to handle it, probably an indigo.
Gotcha.
We're like, if you're taking into, like an archangel archetype into considerations, like we are the Michaels. Like we are going to go in there with our swords and our shields and we are going to bust some evil up. Boy, howdy. Right? And that's where we get our fun. That also can lead us to being very dissatisfied, not being at peace with ourselves because we feel like there's always a war to be fought and we're not fighting it right, or we're not, making an impact, or, all kinds of things like that.
Yeah.
That's where our journey indigo journeys come into play. And I could speak more on this one because I align more with that one than, say, the other ones that are more already on the feminine scale and are working to balance out their masculine. I'm more on the masculine scale and working to balance out the feminine.
Okay.
The forgiveness, the self-love, the love towards others, the self as others, the others as self. It's not an us versus them anymore. Like, there is no holy war to fight anymore. You fought the holy war. You tried that in the Orion Wars. You saw how that went.
Right. Okay.
Time to try a different way. So there's the difference between the classifications is essentially just an identifier as to kind of where you are along the scale of divine masculine feminine energy.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you be both at the same time? Right.
Well,
Okay.
you could start out as one,
Right, and then
and
flip.
become another. So I started out as an indigo, but I'm going crystalline.
Gotcha.
And crystalline is more of the higher level capacity of unification between the masculine and feminine within self. And not gender-wise, because I do fully identify as female. Never really, I mean, it's like, I know I've lived a lot of past lives as dudes, but that doesn't affect how I feel now. It's like I've always felt like, all right, yeah, cool, female, okay.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like Doctor Who in the sense. It's like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. All right, this is the version I am now. All right, cool.
Right.
And at some point, I have had issue with, like, say, the weight or the look of it, but never the gender. So that was never a thing in the process for me personally. But I always had that really masculine overtone. Very, like, leadership, dominance, physical strength, mastery, like, you know, and it was to the point where it's like playing in the distorted realm of it for a while to remember what that was like and go, okay, so we don't want to do that again. That's right. We're actually working towards the other direction. So I mean, ultimately, I think if you want to play a game and be interactive with the game and level up your character, so to speak, if you want to play it that way, because you don't have to, you just do quests and just fuck off. I mean, who cares? I mean, it's a game. You're not going anywhere.
Right.
The real you isn't going anywhere. The conscious you is not going anywhere. It was, play another game. But it's like, if you want to do that, I think it's about coming in as one thing and leaving another. For me, I think it's about leveling up, so to speak.
Okay. That was kind of my next question of, like, do you really need to label or align yourself with one or the other, or, as a label of whatever?
I don't think so. I think it was helpful for me to self-identify to begin that journey. I think it was definitely served a purpose in that, where it's like, okay, so I am an indigo. It just, it's not necessarily just those kids born then. It more has to do with
Right.
And it was specifically too, I remember, like, the types of abilities that they exhibited. I didn't exhibit those same types of abilities. They were adjacent, but they were not, specifically the ones that they always quoted, right? So realizing, though, that it had to do more with where you resonated in yourself, how you felt in yourself, whether you identified more with the divine masculine archetype within self as how you acted and how you reacted and how you feel versus the divine feminine. It's just a descriptor of that. So it was helpful to kind of gain a foothold and go, okay, so this is where I stand now. If I were to give a name to it and describe it to help my brain quantify it so I can explore it more internally, okay, and here's a name I can give to it. This is where I can classify myself. When it's helpful to do that on the journey. Sometimes it's not helpful to classify yourself at all, because then you start limiting yourself.
Right.
Say, oh, I'm an indigo. I see this happen all the time. This drives me batty. I love you guys, but it drives me batty when you do it. They go, oh, well, I'm empathic and this is what happens. I'm empathic. I'm empathic and I'm in pain. I'm empathic. How do I get out of this? How do I stop being like, they stop there. They go, I'm an empath. I am an empath. Put that badge on. They stick that fucker on there as big as they can and they are done. I feel too much. You need to change how you do around me because I'm too sensitive. Drives me bonk-a-bonks. I love you guys. I see where you're at. I'm empathic also.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's an ability. It's not who you are.
It's not a crutch.
Just like being indigo. I have the ability to summon up a warrior spirit and get the fucking shit done. That is an ability. It is not all of who I am, though. I have been able to evolve past that being the automatic response, because that's not always the appropriate response. To go in there with a crowbar instead of a chisel.
Right.
That's where I learned from Frank. Frank is on somewhere else on the scale from me. And I need that duality to reflect. Because even though he's male, he exhibits a lot of divine feminine principle.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's interesting how he's learning divine masculine principles from me, and I'm learning divine feminine principles from him.
Yeah.
Regardless of the label. So either way, at this point, we're both going to come out of it changed and upgraded.
Right.
As you would say. But sometimes it is helpful to be able to go, okay, so this is where I'm starting from.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's like it's a check-in with self in a sense. How do I feel? Your brain kind of has to get, I mean, joy is a word to describe a feeling. The feeling itself has no descriptive word. We've had to just call it something. Right? So indigo is just calling it something. Crystalline is just calling it something. But it has more to do with how you identify frequency internally with yourself. So if you're actually even comprehending any kind of this conversation and listening to us regularly at all, you're a starseed. You're probably a light worker. You're probably an indigo crystalline. You're one of them. Does it really matter as far as a badge of honor? Like you need to wear it?
Yeah.
No. Do you, if you want to, if you want to call yourself like, you know, the indigo light worker coach, like knock yourself out, kiddo.
Truth.
Do it.
Yeah.
If that's what resonates with you to put it out, like how, you know, do it. But it's not necessary all the time to have the label. But it can be a good place to start.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's where this question was so interesting to me, because I don't really resonate with the lingo or the language of that, of labeling myself as an indigo or star worker. I know I'm along the lines of that stuff, you know, but I've never like really put energy to researching it or anything. I just felt I'm just going to do what I'm going to do and go with it, you know, and then seeing my kids and then go, oh, there got to be something too, you know. But then I'm like, I don't want to label them or, hey, you're a starseed, you're this and that, you know. I want them to develop where they're developing, and I support them and, you know, question them and make them dig into it. But I love that you did look into it and you got to like, because I didn't really realize the masculine feminine aspect to it.
I didn't either at all.
So that's very intriguing to hear that part of it, because I can see that within myself of how I'm one more than the other, of course, and where that balance needs to be. So totes.
Right. One of the I do remember one of the author's names now. Her name was Yol Swan, and I think it was Indigo Journals. There's Indigo Journals and something else, another Indigo like titled one. But yeah, I might, if I remember to throw them in the comments, I will. or
Yeah.
throw it in the description, I will. But those were really helpful just to be able to go, okay, so if this is where I lie along the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
this is potentially what I'm trying to do with my growth arc. It kind of gives you a pathway. So if you're one of those people, and some people don't need it, some people couldn't give two shits, and they're like, cool, we'll just ride the wave and we'll see where it goes. Don't matter. And that's a different energetic frequency point.
Right.
Starting from, right? And one that for the longest time was hard for me, and I know is hard for people that were like me to grasp. Because you'll like to see the road ahead of you. You like to have a little bit of a map. You like spoilers, right?
Right.
You like to know what's going to happen at the end so you can enjoy getting there, right? It's a different angle, one that needs more control over the situation in a sense. Feels like it needs more control. But that's where bringing in the divine feminine of flow and allowance is something that we come to teach ourselves. People playing that kind of game. So if you're looking to figure out maybe where you're starting from, books like that might be helpful. If that's something that you feel like you need to kind of give you a foothold to get you started, really diving deep and figuring out who you actually are. Sans label.
Yeah. That's great.
There you go.
Here it is.
There it is. Indigo. Are you a starseed, a light worker? Probably.
Probably. Do you
There's a really
feel
good chance.
when you're doing
Now, whether you're awake or not, that's another story.
right?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, that's I think part of it. Okay. I wrote some questions. Hold on. Do you feel when you're doing the work of kind of who you were or defining yourself in a sense, connection with like a certain entities of like, you call yourself a starseed, so we want to know where do we come from,
Right.
from the galaxy or whatnot.
Yeah.
So did you see like a root, like an original starting point for you with that, or was it just more your ET and not human based?
It started out that I was just like, well, I know I'm not from here. And I didn't have at the time the access to information that would kind of give me the answer because my brain didn't know what to call it. It's almost like it's helpful for the way that my ego construct is set up, that it's like describe it, explain it, and it allows me to more fully understand the idea or the concept or the goal in totality rather than just doing. Sometimes it helps me to understand the science behind the magic, how the magic trick works. It actually makes it more enjoyable for me when they trick me, when I know how it works.
Okay.
I'm that kind of person. So it started out just being, well, okay, I know I'm in TNC, but I don't really have any resources at the time to explore that further, so shelve it.
Okay.
Later on, it's sort of just came. It knocked on my door. I was doing other stuff in the sense of working on other parts of myself, opening things up, working with dream work, tarot, other things, right?
Right.
And then references to specific star systems or whatever or specific species, entity, race groups would be like essentially pounded into my awareness. It's like every day or so, 2 days, there it is again. What? Again? Seriously? Again? All the, like it kept showing up until I looked at it. Yeah. Until I researched it. And they go, here's your answer. Remember that one you forgot about? You're looking for a place to identify. Where do you come from? Where's your home base? Where, like, what is your experience set? Who are you? Okay, well, this is who you've been.
Right. Cool.
Start here. This is who you've been.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who you will be. Just start here, though. Give yourself, like, footing, and then work out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because interestingly enough, where it put me, I had to work out of. I had to work on a whole nother level of, like, self-forgiveness, self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
to move past what I had been shown of who I had been. It's like, okay, you want to know what you are so bad, who you are so bad? Well, here's what you've been. Enjoy it. But you came here to do something different. It's like, this was your choice to do something different. So that's where that thing came in, where I started to know more of the names.
Yeah.
Because it was beneficial to where I was on the journey to get me to that point. Ooh. There we go. So I could work out of it, right? Exactly like that. So I could work out of it. Because that was a starting point too. It was just another stepping stone. And where I am at right now, and even the conversations that you and I have off screen about all this kinds of next level shit, that's just where we are now.
Yeah.
In 8 months' time or less, it's going to be where we've been. It's going to be who we've been.
Mm-hmm.
And who we are is going to be something new.
Mm-hmm. And you going through the way you found, I guess, your lineage, I have had kind of the same experience. But of course it was just in a different way than, it brought you on to where you were.
Right.
Or who you've been. And I've seen that too, exploring in a different way as well. That's all. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty
so
amazing.
It gives you a set point. It goes, okay, so if this is what I have done, what am I doing now?
Right.
Do I choose to stay the same? Do I choose to carry forward that pattern? If this is where the pattern comes from, do I choose to carry it forward? Is it still serving me? That's when you can start, like, that's where all those inner work questions start coming from. And the light worker, and, like, that's when you start being a light worker and doing all your stuff. Like,
right. Yeah.
It all just starts to fold in on itself.
Yeah.
And become, like, just this whole microcosm, macrocosm thing. That's why people, like, go off and hermit, like they would go off and hermit in caves for years. It's like, once you start tapping into this shit, I mean, it just, woo, down the rabbit hole. Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, you go in pretty deep. And I found myself a couple times going, okay, I need to stop because, I'm getting somewhere that I'm not ready for yet sometimes. Or, I need to be human for a minute and be human.
Right. And that is an aspect of it too, to realize as part of the whole part and parcel of experience is to not allow the focus of, I've got to evolve, I've got to do better, I've got to be something else, something more than what I am, overtake enjoying the experience of living.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is by enjoying the experience of living, you end up up-leveling anyway.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But if you focus on, I found this with myself, because I used to give myself hell. Literally, I was in my own living hell for the longest time. And I'm sure so many people are and have been, about, you should be further along in life. You should be doing something different, right? You should be this. You should know how to do this better. You should know how to adapt and react to this in a better way.
Right.
You should need this mechanism or this coping mechanism. You should know better. You're a starseed. You're an indigo. You should know better.
Right.
And that's where you can end up beating yourself up instead of using it as the tool to go, okay, well, this is where I'm starting from. And then just play the game and let it unfold, which is what's hard for the people like us sometimes that feel like we need to see the roadmap.
Right. Yeah.
So we don't. And that's where the game is, right there, that whole play. And that's part of what you teach me too. And people like Ray, and to some degree, people like Frank, because like their whole family's like that. And I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Duh. I mean, I had the hardest time integrating because there was that clash of that energetic difference of how they approach and how I approach or did.
Yeah.
So it's like the learning growth thing. To be reflected, to have the opposite reflected back at you as an opportunity to go, is how I'm doing it really the way I really want to be doing it? Or is there a way that's a compromise between the two that's even better than both?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. You got to give yourself that permission to still like do what's comfortable for yourself.
Yeah.
And what's right for you, you know, if you want to put a label on it or not, it's really your choice. And it helps in the muggle world to define something of the journey you're on, because a lot of the stuff we cannot put into words.
Right.
It's very much energetic. It's vibrational. And I can put all the good feelings out, but sometimes you're not going to catch it because you're not attuned to that yet. And there's no wrong to it.
Right.
You know, it's just a different frequency. And it's the more you play with it, the more you're in it.
Yeah.
And it gets just bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's where you go, oh, this is more than just our world. This is more than just our universe. This is, oh, there we go, you know, and the fucking lid blow off. And you're in a Rick and Morty episode going,
started. Oh, don't get me started. But yeah, essentially, yes. You hit the nail on the head. There you go.
Yeah. So, but it's great. And I love that you shared your perspective. This question came up and was like, ooh, I really want to know your journey on it and your intake, because I really don't know anything of it besides just the little blogs here and there.
Right.
And so, you know, for me, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to keep going, you know. But a lot of people do want to define, you know, go to that and help on the start of their journey. And I think that's great. It's great. It's a start of something. Do it. If you go, do it. If not, then just play with it. But you got to be like, you know, you're playing the game.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, I think, is to realize that you're playing the game and that you can play it how you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so if you want to put labels on it, if you want to play in being a light worker and a healer and a hands-on, like if you want to do that, do it. If you want to be a crystal healer or a bowl sound person, like if you want to do and play in that realm, do it. If you want to do energetic clearings on houses and call yourself, you know, like a medium, do it. That's a whole other one too. Mediumship. That's a whole other label.
I love
Talking to dead people. Telekinesis, telekinetic, like all labels just for like like we've just had to give names to shit.
Right.
Instead, to stuff that otherwise we wouldn't have a descriptive, anything descriptive for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Indigo and Star Child and Lightworker are all the same thing. And they're kind of these big blanket terms.
Yeah. It's a great starting point, like you said. It's great to like have a map if that's what helps you in this human world.
then do it. Do it. Use it. If it helps, use it. Absolutely.
Excuse me.
Well, awesome.
That's great. Yeah. It's awesome. It's great. It's amazing. So much fun.
Well, awesome. There you go. Well, thank you guys for watching or listening and all the stuff. If you have any other questions, because that was a viewer question, if you have any other questions or top explore exploration, you can always drop them below in the comments on the YouTube channel. You can reach us through our Spotify and also on our Facebook page. So check us out there. All of the links will be below. We'll talk to you next time. We're getting close to Christmas, y'all. We're gonna have to have a Christmas special come out. Oh, that's right. We're doing a Christmas special.
Yay!
That's right. We're doing a Christmas special, y'all. Look out for that. We were going to call it the pandemic special, just to be cheeky, but then we decided not to.
No.
And for those of you that get that, Cheers. Yeah. So we love you guys. Thank you. Like, subscribe, share. Dallas and Danielle saying good night.
Yeah.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm losing all my light. Look at you. You can't see me.
You faded away.
Love you guys.
Bye.